Alright, before I get on with this video, I need to show you people something fucking hilarious, okay? That is the only way I can describe it. Just something hilarious. Alright, so, months back, I pissed off some fucking smark in the comment section of an OTR Essential video. Who would have guessed? Mr. Ed pisses off a wrestling fan on the internet. You know, what else is new? Anyway, I believe the video had to do with, like, Becky Lynch. I'm sorry if I'm talking really quickly, okay? This needs to be, like, a really quick video, because I do not have much to say, and I do not want to repeat myself and drag on. That's why I'm talking so fast and frantically like this. I just want to get this over with. Anyway, point is, the video was, like, about Becky Lynch, and, you know, how she's not they had to do something like how she's not a superstar, whatever. Okay, people are exaggerating how big her star power is, whatever. Obviously, a majority of the people in the comment section were, you know, had a fucking brain in their head, a functioning one, and pretty much, you know, agreed. Obviously, they were the fair share of, you know, allowed me to jump on the bandwagon of using this word, but, you know, Becky Lynch simps trying so desperately to defend her. And in all fairness, I kind of like Becky Lynch too, but even I can admit, didn't really do much to draw in a lot of viewers. Anyway, point is, at one point, there's one smark, who I can only describe as, smarks are normally still in the denial stage of grief, you know, actually desperately try to deny the facts and shit, and desperately try to argue to you that, like, oh, guys like Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles and Finn Balor and Kenny Omega are actually draws, and, you know, things like ROH and New Japan and AEW, people actually give a shit about, and that WWE is actually good today or whatever, because they have better matches or whatnot, okay? Normally, smarks are in the denial stage. This guy, though, I can only describe it as more being in the bargaining stage. He understands that nobody today draws because wrestling is terrible, and to deny that is, you know, sure, it's subjective, but really to deny that is, you know, kind of just ridiculous. But he had this whole mentality of, he had the mentality of, like, okay, well, nobody draws anymore, but the only people in history that ever actually drew were just Hogan, Austin, and Rock. That's it. Nobody else. Nobody. Not Andre, Piper, Savage, Warrior, Taker, Triple H, Foley, Goldberg, Flair. You get it. Okay? No one. Apparently, according to him, it was just Hogan, Austin, and Rock. Okay, that's what I mean. He was, like, kind of bargaining. He was trying to, the bargaining stage of grief. It's like, well, yeah, the people I like don't draw, but you know what? Nobody draws except those three obvious ones. Okay? So obviously this guy tries to keep giving me a bunch of shit, and it basically boiled down to another hardcore fan who has to give casual fans shit and act like they're not real fans or whatever. You know, that they were just in it for all these other things that aren't actually wrestling related. That's all this came down to. The guy tried to disguise his mentality as, like, something else completely, but really this was just a hardcore smark who was just angry at casual fans or whatnot, and tried to make justifications as to why his precious jobbers don't draw. Again, like I said, though, he was in the bargaining stages of grief instead of the denial, like most smarks. But that's not the funny part, okay? That's just outright sad. It's not funny. Here's where the funny part comes in. At one point, this asshole gets so goddamn legitimately angry at me that in the middle of one of his replies, he outright says that he wants to kick my ass. And I would show you that right now, because I do have it screenshotted, but before I can show you that, I gotta tell you about another reply he gives a little later. At one point, he sends me his address. He sends me his address and tells me to go find him. And I screenshotted that too. I'll show you. First, here's the screenshot of him saying he wants to kick my ass. And now, here's the screenshot of him giving me his goddamn address. Do you see? why I make these dopey videos? Do you see my problem with this fan base, in particular on the internet? Okay? You smarks think people like me are fucking whacked out and crazy? This guy tells me he wants to kick my ass and sends me his address and tells me to go find him. The modern day wrestling fan, ladies and gentlemen. I just had to show that off somewhere, but I wasn't going to make a whole video about it, so I just had to shoehorn it into this, okay? I had to show it off somewhere, but anyway, let's get on with the video proper. Now, despite the fact that I just said, let's get on with the video proper, there is one thing I need to get to first before we can really get into the meat and potatoes of this video, okay? I understand that I am going to sort of contradict the title of this video. There's a reason. There's a reason why I'm going to keep the title as is, though. Part of that is because, you know, despite the lack of effort I put into this channel, I think the title I'm sticking with is going to catch more eyes and, you know, get more people to think about it and maybe click on it. But I'm well aware I'm going to technically kind of contradict the title. The other thing, though, is that I understand a lot of people, apparently people who probably hate my guts, most likely think of me as just some, like, Smarkbusters fanboy, some Smarkbusters wannabe. I watch, you know, like, casual fan of theirs, whatever, they, you know, I think they're entertaining, I think they're funny. I understand they're assholes, but hey, so am I, so who cares? But because of this one specific kind of hot take the standpoint they've taken since their return from, like, their 3-year hiatus or whatever, some of you are probably going to think that I'm trying to, you know, just jump on that and agree with them. When in all honesty, no. I've actually had this video planned for a while now. Long before the Smarkbusters made their return. And if I have some way, shape, or form proving that, I'll insert that into the video here. And if not, then the video will just awkwardly jump cut, and really, you know, who cares, because production value doesn't matter that much to videos like these. Too bad the rest of the YWC doesn't understand that. But my whole thing is, I hate this goddamn made-up word known as anti-smark. Yeah, some of you, pretty much as people who hate me, are be like, you hate that word? Doesn't that describe you? No! It doesn't! And for so long, I wanted to point out about how there is no such thing as an anti-smark. And I still technically kind of stand by that. Unfortunately, I have been made privy to the information that there is kind of a very small subsection of fans that will actually just like things that smarks don't like. These are the type of people that really will only like somebody because they're big and muscular. These are the few, and I do want to emphasize, few people that you probably can use the word muscle mark to describe. The type of people who probably would try to justify Jinder Mahal's shitty world title reign from a few years ago, okay? I, and people like me though, would never do that, okay? We don't like things just because smarks dislike them. That's fucking retarded, okay? And the actual people who the name anti-smark can apply to, you know what? You're just as fucking dumb and stupid as smarks, okay? So I'm gonna get that out of the way. I do not advocate for these people and their shitty opinions, all right? So then, why do I still call this video, well, there is no such thing as an anti-smark? Well, because the big thing is, this video isn't me trying to say, like, oh, you know, fuck the people that actually are anti-smarks or whatever. This video, I want to explain where the word came from, why it's made up, and why everyone should cease using it. Gather around, children. It's time for story time with Mr. Red. Okay, so a long time ago, before I started doing these dopey wrestling videos, back when, you know, I think I tried to make this still a gaming-related channel, you know, like with my dopey earlier videos on, like, oh, is Twisted Metal Black a remake of the first game, or, you know, why Twisted Metal 3 is good and whatnot. You know, I didn't, honestly, I could argue I was kind of smarky, you know, I'd see people like the original Off the Rope show and be like, I don't get it. What are they talking about? It's pro wrestling. Wouldn't you want the wrestling matches to be really good? Isn't that what matters most? I was an outside. Okay, here's the perspective I'm coming from. I was an outsider. I was not on either side. Okay, so I kind of had an objective opinion and outlook on this. I kept hearing about, the IWC and the YWC, and the stereotype that, for the most part, actually kind of came true of just, these nerds on the internet who only like these skinny, short, not muscular guys who do just a bunch of flips and kicks, and do nothing but a bunch of high spots, have no character, charisma, can't talk on the mic, can't tell a story in the ring, and these fans that are obsessed with like indie promotions and who think that things like the Hogan era and the Attitude Era are overrated. I was someone from the outside looking in, and at first I didn't get it. But then finally, after a while, I saw, I saw the issues with this fan base, and it's basically everything I said in all my past videos. That the IWC or whatever, the hardcore internet smarks of the IWC just kind of ran rampant all over the internet, acting like pompous, elitist, just gatekeeping know-it-alls, who shat on everyone else's opinion, who acted like they were these experts on professional wrestling, and that anyone whose opinion differed slightly from the norm of the kind of hive mind mentality on the internet, they didn't know anything, and they weren't a real fan. After a while, I started to notice this, and I'm like, wow, these guys actually are assholes. Which is why I started making these videos. Because again, smarks were just these snobby, elitist, gatekeeping assholes who claimed to be these wrestling experts and didn't want anyone else, to enjoy wrestling, despite the fact that, like, as proven before in previous videos, they don't know jack fucking shit about professional wrestling, and that's really sad because professional wrestling isn't that goddamn fucking complicated. Finally, after a while, people started standing up to them. And I'm not trying to sit here and act like, standing up to a bunch of people on the internet and having flame wars in comment sections or whatnot is anything noble or good. It's in the grand scheme of things, who fucking cares? Alright, I get it. I'm not trying to, but for lack of a better word, that's all I can really say, is people, stood up to them, okay? For lack of a better word, that's all I could refer to it as. People finally started taking a stand against them in forums and comment sections and started making videos firing back, and for good reason, because these people were a bunch of snobby assholes who didn't appreciate any other fans whose opinions differed from, again, the major hive mind that was the internet wrestling fan base. And people were right to stand up and fire back at them and throw their own shit back at them. People were right to do that because these fucking retards, who I don't give a shit how pompous and snobby this sounds of me, really could hardly be classified as real fans. Partially because they don't understand the fucking medium they claim to be fans of, partially because they will gladly see it die as long as they get what they want and screw anyone else. So, after a while, people started fighting back. That's all good. It's fine. Whatever. These fucking smarks deserved it. But because these smarks are a bunch of crybaby man-children who in their 30s most likely still live in their parents' basement, because they're so thin-skinned, like a lot of people on the internet, to be fair, but that doesn't make it acceptable. Because they're a bunch of thin-skinned crybabies, they crouched into a corner, cried like infants, pulled the victim card, and made up the word in question here: anti-smark. They all of a sudden, after years of attacking everyone else's opinions. Finally, when people started firing back at them, all of a sudden, their opinions are under attack. Their community is under attack. Oh no! They can fling all the shit they want, but when someone flings shit back, all of a sudden, they can't take it. They run away, tail between their legs, crying. So they had to make up this word, this made-up fucking word that really just applies to regular fans. That's it. The people that get that's the thing why I'm still that's a major reason why I'm still sticking with the title of this video being there is no such thing as an anti-smark. Because the people who actually the term actually kind of applies to never get brought up, never get mentioned, never actually really get attacked by smarks. It's just regular fans who have the decency to stand up for their opinions, or I guess like the opinions of others, that get labeled this dumb, made-up word. It is just circulating out there and becoming so commonly used. It's fucking awful. Look, I understand. A lot of words like mark and smark and jobber and all that are technically, are made up too. But those are words that actually come from like the actual world in, the wrestling industry. That actually come from the world of wrestling. Anti-smark is just something made up by a small group of people, just small group of fans on the internet. That's why that's why I call that a completely invalid, made-up word that doesn't exist. The people that get accused of being anti-smarks are just regular fucking fans. Some of which who have the decency to stand up for their own goddamn opinions. That's it. But again, because smarks are a bunch of elitist, gatekeeping, thin-skinned crybabies, they have to crouch into a corner and pull the victim card and act like, despite years of attacking everyone else's opinions, act like they're the ones under attack. Like, really, I'm trying to think of a very modern day example in real life that I can compare it to. And the only one I can come up with is sort of like the religious majority in this country who think that every little thing all of a sudden or any little thing that doesn't follow what they believe all of a sudden is an attack on their belief. It's an attack on Christianity or something or whatnot. It's the same thing except for the fact that the majority of the people in this country are still some form of Catholic or Christian or whatever, whereas smarks, despite being the majority on the internet, are a minority of the whole fan base. So it's not an exact one-to-one example, but I think it still pretty much applies. It's a bunch of people who think anyone who fires back in any way all of a sudden is this grand attack and that they're victims, even though they've spent the last God knows how many years beforehand basically being the aggressors, basically being the people inciting some form of argument. I'm trying to keep the words I use attack to a minimum because it's just a bunch of people arguing on the internet, But again, lack of a better term, I don't know what else to use. But you see my point. That's where this word comes from. A bunch of fucking crybabies on the internet who went around shitting on everyone else's opinions, couldn't take the heat. When people finally stood up to them, all of a sudden, they acted like they were the victims. Fucking just hate that. When all of a sudden these people these smarks who use the term anti-smark act like, people like me, and yeah, I understand, I am an asshole, but what I mean by that is they act like we're the people going out of our way to, just stomp on and shit on everyone's opinions. It's assholes, you were doing, you drew first blood. What do you expect? This is all your fault. You're the ones that created anti-smarks, basically. Trying to wrap this up here but I'm always fucking worried that there's always something I'm going to miss. And there was one point I want to make that I'm going to miss. But at the risk of repeating myself, that's the point I'm trying to make. There's no, it's just a made-up word by smarks who can't handle people arguing back at them. So they have to pretend like their opinions are under attack, despite the fact they've attacked everyone else's opinions at this point for literal years, in all fairness. Yes, there is a very small subsection of fans where the name can apply, that the word can apply to, but they're never really brought up. They're never really mentioned when smarks talk about anti-smarks. When smarks throw the term anti-smark at someone, they're just talking about someone who has given their opinion, or has tried to defend their opinion, or who actually just questions theirs back, and tries to figure out, tries to see things from their point of view, but smarks, can't actually defend their side, can't actually come up with justifications for what they think wrestling should be. So they just have to they just have to cry like babies and pretend like their opinions are under attack. God, I'm fucking repeating myself at this point. God damn it. So there. In conclusion, anti-smark is a made-up word, and people should stop using it. Anyway, in conclusion, fuck the word anti-smark. It's made up. Fuck anyone who uses it. You are a fucking idiot. And fuck the people who actually could be classified as anti-smarks. You are really no better than smarks, so fuck you too. There, I'm out. Done. I'm gonna go hang myself.